Hello and welcome to the Treasury Takeaways podcast. My name is Matthew Obergfall, and I'm the head of middle market at Wells Fargo for Global Treasury Management. I'm happy to be joined by Zach Manning, who's the head of revenue at FiSpan, and we are coming to you live from the floor of the AFP conference.
Thanks, Matthew, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this podcast.
What are you most excited about this year or even more lately?
When you think about the collaboration at the intersection of a finance professional or a bank or a fintech, they're solving really complex business outcomes. Specifically, when I go to meet with a bank at AFP as a financial professional, I'm not just curious about treasury services. I'm wanting to understand, how is a bank innovating? How are they helping push me further as a business? How can they help me manage my working capital so I can scale the business without going into debt? How can I actually leverage new connectivity solutions like Vantage Connect that Wells Fargo is pushing out with a company called FiSpan? How can I continue to push the boundaries of what my business is capable of doing from an integration standpoint so I can make the most value of the current business systems and processes that I have today? And so obviously that's what I'm excited about selfishly from like a high growth fintech company, but I'm really curious, as one of the most established and trusted banks in the world, what are you most excited about, Matthew?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying I love your answer, and there are really two things. On one hand, I'm incredibly excited about the partnerships that we're forging with fintechs like FiSpan that allow us to deliver for our clients in better and really unique ways, so much so that there's literally a line for it. And then secondly, I'm really excited about our partnerships with our internal product organizations and how that's allowing us to forge deeper relationships, become much more strategic in how we're advising our clients, and changing the conversation from something as simple as a cash management strategy to something much more broad like working capital and liquidity structures to help our clients be the best they can be. With all the interactions you're having here at AFP, what challenges are you hearing about frequently from your clients and partners, and how are you dealing with them?
So as beautiful as the noise is here at AFP, that noise is actually part of the challenge. When you look at all of the amazing opportunities ahead of you, and as financial professionals go from session to session and booth to booth, there's a lot of different things that could add value to their business. But they have to specifically figure out how to focus and find the diamond in the rough, the thing that's going to impact their business the most. And so for us at FiSpan, our biggest challenge is, what do we develop next? And how do we know what we develop is going to add value to the businesses and to our banking partners? And so a conference like this allows us to gain a tremendous amount of feedback so that we can make sure that what we're building in the next 3, 6, and 9 months is going to have the biggest impact on our client base. Of course, the challenges that I'm talking about are specific from my perspective as a small scaling fintech. As a large bank with tens of thousands of businesses that you're supporting, how are you helping them through challenges and making the best business decisions?
It's a great question, and the thing that I always try to ask clients and think about myself is a very disciplined focus on prioritization. We all have tens, hundreds, maybe thousands of opportunities depending on the scale of our organization, and we have got to whittle it down to keeping the main thing. What are the 3 or 4 things that you can do that will make a difference? For our clients, it's prioritizing their treasury strategy, their liquidity strategy. For us, it's prioritizing our time. More and more, we're seeing forward-looking customers focus on liquidity management, not just from a yield perspective, but overall, how do they maximize their structure to identify opportunities and effectively act on them?
From our side, from the fintech side, the most important strategy is a holistic data strategy. When we first set out and founded FiSpan, we had this vision of connecting ERP systems and banks that surprisingly never collaborated. You could argue that they were 2 800-pound gorillas in the room that didn't want to collaborate. But when we look at a holistic data strategy, the amazing thing is that businesses that leverage an ERP or an enterprise resource planning system naturally have their financial data structured in a way that they can make sense of it. The irony in all of this is that companies already have structured data, it's just that they're not leveraging it to the fullest ability. And so when we look at this, Matthew, if businesses were to open up and think more about how they can provide structured data to their bank partners like Wells Fargo, how would you open up a collaboration like that, take that data and provide more insights to how they could help scale their business or manage their overall liquidity strategy?
Well, the first thing would be to understand where is their cash. And once we understand all of the places their cash is, and sometimes it even surprises them, the next thing would be understanding things like their investment policy, what their goals are. And once we've really gotten a full picture of not only where everything is, but what they're trying to achieve, then it's talking about things like, how are we structuring to maximize availability? How are you built to effectively use that cash? And then lastly, if you've achieved those things, have you really optimized processes so it's not only best use of your liquidity and maximizing it, but also efficient for the company and the organization? We've touched on technology and innovation in a few different ways. When you think about those, what's exciting and what's maybe a little scary?
Naturally, what's really exciting for me is the collaboration again, going back to what we discussed at the beginning of the podcast. I used to work for a fintech a decade ago, and fintechs and banks were extremely competitive. There was not a lot of collaboration, and so in nature, you never thought that you'd have the opportunity to work with banks. What's really exciting about today is that collaboration is natural, it's emphasized, it's encouraged, and you see banks more and more reaching out to understand how can they partner not only to augment, but to accelerate the offerings that they can bring to their customers. And of course, at the intersection of all of that is the data strategy. And so what's also really exciting is the evolution beyond machine learning and data strategies and into artificial intelligence or AI. When you look at the robust tools that we're building on top of AI, the language models that we're educating, it's a really exciting time to be able to ask a simple question and get large optionality in the answers that you're receiving. But when you talk about scary, that's also something that scares me personally coming from a fintech is if we're not taking the right diligence and the quality to teach these language models, how do we ensure that the output out of these language models is in fact true and accurate? And so I do have a little bit of scaredness when I think about how early we are in this strategy or in this inception of AI and looking at the outputs. But again, I'm just coming from a little old fintech over here. As one of the largest banks in the world, what's your opinion and what things are you most excited about?
It makes me think back to my start in banking. I think about the first thing was audited financials. It was data that you could trust. And when you're talking about what you were just explaining, is the data trustworthy and are the relationships trustworthy? And I think that's what's so exciting about what we bring to our customers, because they know through that partnership that you were just describing between banks and fintechs that we've already established a level of trust, that they know we're bringing them great ideas that will not only benefit them, but that will work. And we stand behind that. I think that is a powerful partnership for both innovation and for bringing great ideas to our clients. Earlier episodes of Treasury Takeaways have talked about the evolution of payments. From a fintech perspective, what's that mean to you?
Digitization from the fintech perspective comes into two categories for me. The first is going to be the customer experience, or in this case, the financial professional's experience. When they look at different payment types, typically each one of those will have a different process. So they'll have handwritten checks that they're cutting and mailing, or they'll have the ability to log in and do an ACH, or they're doing a wire. But the reality is that their experience is a different payment process for each payment type. What we're trying to do is create one singular payment process with the optionality of different types. Specifically, when we talk about the channels perspective, we're looking at the ERP. How can we help generate payments out of the ERP that are seamlessly connected with their accounting workflow, not just their payments workflow? From your perspective at Wells Fargo, how are customers asking you to digitize their payments?
Really two ways. The two ways I hear on one hand, it's I want to live in my native environment. I don't want to have to swivel chair back and forth, go into an ERP, go into a treasury platform, and go into a portal. And then secondly, I want you to make the decisions of payment type for me. I don't want to have to decide and deliberate around who gets paid how. I need intelligent routing. I need to send you something, and you originate the payments for me. And with that, that's a wrap for this episode of Treasury Takeaways. Zach, I want to thank you again for the fantastic partnership that we have and for joining as a guest today. I found the answers and the interaction really engaging and very interesting, so appreciate the time you spent with us today.
And thank you so much, Matthew and Wells Fargo, for the opportunity to be on this Treasury Takeaways podcast. I look forward to the future of our partnership and future conferences together.
Global Treasury Management products and services are provided by Wells Fargo Bank, N.A. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A. is a bank affiliate of Wells Fargo and Company. Wells Fargo Bank N.A. is not liable or responsible for obligations of its affiliates. Deposits held in non-U.S. branches, subsidiaries, or affiliates are not FDIC or CDIC insured. Deposit products offered by Wells Fargo Bank N.A., member FDIC.